Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, going to be breaking down the Week 9 Monday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings for this Week 9 Monday night game. We got a game between the Chargers and the Jets. This should be a decent game, I think. It probably won't be the best, but I don't think it's one of the worst primetime games we've had this season. We've definitely had worse games than this, I think. But we're going to talk about this Showdown slate, guys. We're going to go top to bottom, hit on all the playable options, talk about all the guys I do have interest in on this slate. Now, as always, before we get started with the breakdown, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos and if they do help you out, make sure you hit that like button down below, guys. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to the channel, if you've not checked out PrizePicks before, PrizePicks is the sponsor of this video. Be sure to check out PrizePicks, guys. Linked down below in the description, or when you sign up, use promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code. And for those of you that don't know what PrizePicks is, they are a player prop site. They're focused on player projections. You're picking more or less on player projections. It is that simple. And you can see some of the props they have posted for Monday night's game. I'm making this video on Sunday, so you can see they still have stuff up for Sunday Night Football. But there's a lot of props available for Monday Night Football as well. Obviously, on Monday, I'm making this video on Sunday, but on Monday, you check the board on Monday, there will be even more props available. And you can take a look at their board, see if there's anything that stands out to you. Again, you're just picking more or less on a player's projection. It's that simple. You have to make at least 2 picks on PrizePicks, but you can make up to 6 picks, and you can win up to 25x your money. So if you guys want to check out PrizePicks, if you don't have an account, sign up. Use that promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's go ahead and talk about this Showdown slate, guys, for Monday night. We'll start off at the top of the player pool. So Austin Ekeler is coming in as our most expensive option on this slate. He is $12K. It's hard to say anything negative about Austin Ekeler. The guy has an amazing role for fantasy, especially for DraftKings scoring. With DraftKings scoring being full PPR, Ekeler is always going to be a very valuable fantasy running back on DraftKings. You look at the volume he gets in the passing game. That game against Kansas City, I think, was definitely a weird outlier game from Ekeler. Typically, we can expect like 5 to 6 targets a week for Austin Ekeler. He got 8 targets last week. And he's been getting a lot of carries, too. I mean, he hasn't been very efficient on the ground outside of Week 1 against Miami. The efficiency on the ground has not been great for Ekeler, but he's making up for it with the pass game usage. He's always a threat to score a touchdown. He's already scored 2 touchdowns this season. Ekeler at $12K, I think, is a solid pay-up option here, and really nothing negative to say about Ekeler on this slate. I think you probably get a little bit of a higher floor from the quarterbacks. So, like in cash games, I would probably rather play like Justin Herbert over Austin Ekeler, I think. But Ekeler firmly in play here. Herbert, I do like at 11,800. Herbert has just been super consistent this season. He had that one game against Kansas City. It was a little bit of a bad game from him, but outside of that game against Kansas City, he's had at least 20 DraftKings points in every other game this season. Super, super high floor from Justin Herbert. Don't think the matchup here is that great. Going on the road to face a good Jets defense. Don't love the matchup for Herbert, but he's got good weapons in this Chargers offense. This Chargers team is a very pass-heavy offense, so Herbert, he can throw for 300-plus yards and multiple touchdowns any game. Doesn't give you a ton of rushing upside, but he will provide a little bit with his legs. At 11,800, I think Herbert is another very strong play on this Showdown slate. I think he's someone I'd probably want to be building around in cash games. For tournaments, I don't think I would be playing Herbert in the captain spot, but I do like using him in the flex spot, especially in lineups where I have a Chargers pass catcher at the captain spot. If you're going to play a Chargers pass catcher at the captain spot, you're probably going to be looking at Keenan Allen. Tough matchup here for Keenan Allen. He might see some Sauce Gardner in this matchup. I don't know if they're going to, what kind of coverage they're going to do, if they're going to shadow, if Sauce Gardner is going to shadow Keenan Allen. Either way, we know Keenan Allen is going to get a ton of volume. He is a top target in this offense. Without Mike Williams, I mean, Keenan Allen has just been getting peppered with targets. I don't think anything's going to change here. I would say of all these pay-up options, Herbert, Allen, and Ekeler, I think Allen's my least favorite. But that's not saying, you can't play him on this slate. I think he's firmly in play. I think his ownership will probably be a bit lower than Herbert's and Ekeler's. So for tournaments, he does make sense as a pay-up option. Just think the matchup's a bit tough here, and I do prefer Ekeler and Herbert over Keenan Allen. But I want to talk about Breece Hall, because I think Breece Hall is a really strong pay-up option. Breece Hall, we have seen really kind of be unleashed these last few weeks, and it's clear that Breece Hall is the #1 running back for the Jets. I know they signed Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin Cook has just not been involved. Last week, Dalvin Cook only played 8 snaps. You saw 64% of the snaps for Breece Hall. Last 2 weeks, Breece Hall's played 66 and 64% of the snaps. In those games, he's gotten 17 and 18 touches. Not only is he getting double-digit carries, but he's getting a ton of usage in the passing game. He's basically like a mini version of Austin Eckler with how they're using him right now. Now we know Eckler, his role in the passing game is more solidified. Maybe this is just kind of like a little one-time thing for Breece Hall, but man, the last few weeks, 5 targets, 9 targets. If they continue to give him this type of usage in the passing game to go along with double-digit carries, there is a huge floor here, or huge ceiling here for Breece Hall, and a very high floor as well. At 10,400 with the discount you're getting, going down to him from all these other Chargers guys that we've talked about, I like Breece Hall a ton on this slate. I think he's a very strong play. I like using him in the captain spot as well. Saves you a little bit of salary off playing some of these guys in the captain spot. So really big on Breece Hall here. I think the matchup as well against the Chargers is definitely beatable. This Chargers team typically has been a team you can run on. I know last season they were a really bad team against the run. So like the spot a lot for Breece Hall. I think he's a very strong play. Then you have Garrett Wilson at 9,600. Garrett Wilson, really talented receiver, getting a ton of volume. It's always, you never know what you're going to get from Garrett Wilson just because you don't know what you're going to get from Zach Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson, he's shown the ability to put up huge games even with, questionable quarterback play. And I think this is a good matchup against the Chargers. I know the Chargers secondary has been beatable this season. The Chargers have been giving up a lot of fantasy points to wide receivers. I'm concerned that, I feel like Zach Wilson is just live to completely shit the bed any week. And obviously, if Zach Wilson shits the bed, that probably means his receivers are going to be pretty bad as well. But if Zach Wilson can show up and, play decent in this game, we could see a huge game from Garrett Wilson here. I mean, you look at the volume for Garrett Wilson, 14 targets, 7, 12, 13 targets. He's got 12-plus targets in 3 out of their last 4 games. I like him in tournaments. I don't think I'd be using him in a cash game or anything. I think it makes a lot more sense to play Breece Hall, Justin Herbert, those guys in cash games. But we know the upside's there for Garrett Wilson. This is a really good matchup. If you want to go there in tournaments, I have no issue with it. And then Zach Wilson at 8,800, really cheap price tag here for a starting quarterback. We typically don't see quarterbacks priced this low on Showdown slates. I understand why Zach Wilson's priced this low. He has not been very good for fantasy this year. But this is a matchup where I think we actually could see a decent fantasy game from Zach Wilson. This Chargers secondary is very beatable. I think the Chargers have actually given up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks this season. If not, they're in the top 5, I'm pretty sure. So if there was ever a spot for Zach Wilson to actually be fantasy relevant, I feel like this is the spot for that to happen. He's only 8,800. That is, again, really cheap for a quarterback. I kind of like Zach Wilson here. I think he's firmly in play on the Showdown slate. I could see using him in cash games just because, he's a quarterback. He's going to probably give you a pretty high floor. I still don't think Zach Wilson's the best quarterback, and I think, again, he's live to shit the bed any week, but this does feel like a spot where Zach Wilson can play well at home against a beatable defense and a Chargers defense that has been very vulnerable, allowing, I'm pretty sure, the most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. So I do like Zach Wilson at 8,800. And then we got to talk about Josh Palmer. He got put on the IR, so that's going to give us some value. We can go ahead and talk about that value now. So with Josh Palmer on IR and out for this game, you should see some more targets. Obviously Keenan Allen's just going to get a ton of opportunity, but you should probably see a few more targets from maybe a guy like Gerald Everett. Quentin Johnson, I think, is going to be a really popular value play on this slate, but it's hard not to like Quentin Johnson. Only 3,600, super, super cheap. We haven't really seen Quentin Johnson break out yet, but last week was kind of like a glimpse of what could come. 50 receiving yards on 6 targets, had 5 catches in that game against the Bears. If we look at the snap counts last week, Quentin Johnson did play a season-high 70% of the snaps. Now without Josh Palmer, you would think Quentin Johnson is going to operate as the wide receiver 2 in a very pass-heavy offense. Although the matchup is not that good, maybe if Keenan Allen gets shadowed by Sauce Gardner, that could mean even more targets heading to Quentin Johnson. So, yeah, 3,600 for Quentin Johnson. This is definitely way too low of a price tag. He should be like 6K. I mean, he's going to be a very popular option, but hard not to like him at that cheap price tag. And then like Gerald Everett, I think also gets a little bit of a bump here. He's not been very good for fantasy this year, but he could score a touchdown. I mean, he's kind of like a touchdown or bust play, but there will definitely be some more targets available for him with Josh Palmer, obviously out right now. And then you have Allen Lazard at 5,200. Allen Lazard is questionable for this game. If Lazard does play here, I don't mind him as a value option. I think he's probably like one of my least favorite receiver values. Like I definitely would rather play Johnson for way cheaper. But Lazard has had a decent role. I mean, he's been out there for a large majority of the snaps. Last week, he played 81% of the snaps. He's been operating as the clear wide receiver 2 behind Garrett Wilson. Lazard has had kind of a tough time earning targets in this Jets offense, but he's 5,200. He's going to be out there for 75, 80% of the snaps. He'll probably see 4, 5, maybe 6 targets. he's definitely in play on the slate if you are looking for some cheap receiver value. The defenses, you could go there. I feel like the Chargers defense is probably going to be overowned here. Obviously, Zach Wilson will turn the ball over. He will take sacks, but the Chargers defense is also not that good, so I'm probably just going to avoid the defenses here. If I had to pick a defense, honestly, I think I'd rather play the Jets defense. They're at home. They actually have a really good defense. They can put pressure on the quarterback. Herbert's a good quarterback, but he still will turn the ball over. He'll take some sacks. So if you want to play a defense in this game, go ahead. If I had to pick one of the defenses to play, I'd rather go to the Jets defense. The kickers, they're fine values on the slate. No issue going to either kicker. We did see Donald Parham have a pretty good game last game. 5 targets, 4 catches, 43 yards, and a touchdown. I would temper my expectations a little bit here for Donald Parham. He did see a season high 62% of the snaps last week, and that was largely due to Gerald Everett being out. With Gerald Everett back for this game, I would expect Parham to go back to operating as the number 2 tight end. So at 3,200, I'm not super interested in Parham at this price tag with Everett back. Tyler Conklin at 3K, you could look to for value. He has been operating as the number 1 tight end for the Jets. He hasn't really been able to earn a ton of targets, but 3K is really cheap for a tight end that's going to play probably 75% of the snaps. He's going to be out there running routes. He's probably going to have to score a touchdown to justify this price tag. I mean, I guess he could get there without a TD. He did have almost 10 Draftkings points in this game against Kansas City without scoring a touchdown in that game. So at 3K, I definitely like Conklin on the slate. I think you get a much higher ceiling from someone like Quentin Johnston, but I think Quentin Johnston will also be a lot higher owned. If you want to pivot in tournaments, you could go to Conklin. I think Conklin is in play for value here. Josh Kelly, I mean, he's going to operate as the RB2 behind Austin Eckler. He'll probably get 5, 6, 7 carries, maybe a target or 2. Not super interested in Josh Kelly. Dalvin Cook, I mean, $1,400 for Dalvin Cook, it's just crazy to see. But Dalvin Cook, man, I'm a Florida State fan. I'm a big fan of Dalvin Cook because he was so good at Florida State, but he doesn't have it anymore. He just doesn't have the same burst he used to have. He's not been efficient as a runner. Even when he does get touches, he just hasn't really been able to make much out of them. $1,400 is really cheap for a guy like Dalvin Cook, but he probably only projects to see 5, 6 touches here. I would guess he gets 3, 4 carries and maybe 1 or 2 targets, if that. If you want to go there, I guess you can, but I'm probably just going to shy away from Dalvin Cook. I think Breece Hall has earned the RB1 role for the Jets, and Breece Hall is the clear number 1 running back for this team right now. I just don't know if Dalvin Cook's a guy that is really going to be fantasy relevant anymore at this point. I mean, maybe he'll have a good game here or there, but yeah, on this slate, I'm not really interested in Dalvin Cook. And I think that's pretty much it. I think we kind of talked about all the playable options. There's a couple, super cheap guys you could maybe go down to. Malik Taylor did play 36% of the snaps last week for the Jets. He is minimum salary, but he didn't earn a single target in that game. So, yeah, I just don't think there's any plays down here. Randall Cobb's minimum salary, but he's barely been playing lately. I'm pretty sure last week he didn't even play a snap last week. I don't know if he was injured. I think he might have been injured last week, but even if Randall Cobb, plays 30-40% of the snaps, I don't know if that's really going to mean a ton of fantasy value. He just hasn't really been able to earn targets in this offense. So don't really see any punt plays down here that I'm super interested in. I think we talked about all the playable options. So yeah, guys, I think that's it for this Showdown slate. Just a little quick breakdown of this Monday Night Football game, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video as always. Appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And again, if you guys are new to the channel, be sure to go check out PrizePicks, sponsor of this video. You guys can sign up for PrizePicks, linked down below in the description, or just when you sign up, make sure to use that promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code. Check them out if you have not yet. But good luck on this Monday Night Football slate, guys. Hopefully we get a good game tonight. I appreciate you guys watching the video as always. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.